Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Yashoda Yamunatira Vannacharamani Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Damodara, Radha Damodara Shivaji, Radha Damodara, Radha Damodara Shivaji. Jaya Radha Damodara, Radha Damodara Shivaji, Radha Damodara, Radha Damodara Shivaji. Jaya Lalita, Vishaka, Lalita, Vishaka, Shivadi. Lalita, Vishaka, Lalita, Vishaka, Shivadi. Jai Nitai, Gora Sundra, Nitai, Gora Sundra, Gora Hari. Nitai, Gora Sundra, Nitai, Gora Sundra, Gora Hari. Jai Jagannath, Jai Jagannath, Jai Balaji, Jai Subhadra, Jai Jagannath, Jai Jaya Jai Baladevi Jaya Krishna Jaya Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada Guru Te Guru Te Guru Te Jaya Gita Guru Te Guru Te Guru Te Jaya Gita Jayam Vignapa Paramamta Parvitakjaya Astuta Satashi Shimala's Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jayam Vishnapa Paramamsa Parvitakjaya Astuta Satashi Shimala's Divine Grace Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Guru Vaishnava Niki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai His confounded Charya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Prem Sakho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasti Gaur Bhaktivedanta Niki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Go Govardhan Shyamakun Radha Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Turadam Ki Jai Navadip Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Gita Nagari Dham Ki Jai Hare Krishna Maha Mantra Ki Jai Hari Nam Sankirtan Ki Jai Gangamai Manamai Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakti Vrinda Ki Jai Gaura Premanandi Hari Hari Bo All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the lotus feet of Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Namo Om Vishnu 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 Please, you're welcome to come closer if you would like. Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Agera Timirandasya Gina Gina Shivakaya. Shakshunmilitam Hena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale. Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadanti Swapadantikam. Hey Krishna Karuna Sandhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate. Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute. Nam Om Vishnu Hare Krishna Stara Bhutale Shri Krishna Nama Om Vishnu Hare Krishna Vastaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paskacharya Sacharane Vanchakaputribhyascha Kripasannibhyevata Patitanam Bhavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasti Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Thank you, dear devotees, for coming to Srimad Bhagavatam class. Please pray that I can say something that will be helpful to all of us as we continue on our journey back home, back to Godhead. So we're reading text 13 of the 11th chapter of the 7th canto. The title of the chapter is called Perfect Society, Four Social Classes. And excuse me 1 second. I think there's a, yeah. Samskara Chivicina Sadvijojo Jagadayam Ijad Yan Yana Danani Vitani Janmanam Janma Karma Vadatanam Kriyas Chashra Vachoditaha. Does anyone else would like to chant first? Okay, go ahead.
Namaskara, Hare Krishna. Namaskara, Yachina, Sadhvi, Jagaraya, Ichyat, Yana, Dhanani, Vihitani, Dvijan, Manam, Janma, Karma, Vadadhanam, Kriyash, Ashrama, Choditaha.
Samskar yatra vinaha sadvi chok jagatam ijaya dana vihitan vijan shanma padatta priyas ashram rodita.
Samskara yatra jina sadvijogadayam ijadayam dhanani vihitani janmanam janmakarma vadhanam priyashashrama pujitaha.
Word for word. Thank you, devotees. Samskara, reformatory processing. Yatra, wherein. Avichina, without interruption. Saha, such a person. Vijaha, twice born. Ajaha, Lord Brahma. Jagada, sanctioned. Yam, who. Ija, worshipping. Adyayana, studies of the Vedas, Danani, and charity, Vihitani, prescribed, Dvijanmanam, of persons who are called twice born, Janma, by birth, Karma, and activities, Avadatanam, who are purified, Kriyaha, activities, Cha, also, Ashrama Choditaha, recommended for the 4 ashrams. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki. Those who have been reformed by the Garbhadana ceremony and other prescribed reformatory methods performed with Vedic mantras and without interruption, and who have been approved by Lord Brahma, are Dvijas, or twice born. Such Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas, purified by their family traditions and by their behavior, should worship the Lord, study the Vedas, and give charity. In this system, they should follow the principles of the 4 ashrams: Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyas. Purport. After giving a general list of 30 qualifications for one's behavior, Narada Muni now describes the principles of the 4 varnas and 4 ashrams. A human being must be trained in the above-mentioned 30 qualities. Otherwise, he is not even a human being. Then, among such qualified persons, the varnashram process should be introduced. In the varnashram system, the first ceremony for purification is Garbhadana, which is performed with mantras at the time of sex for propagating a good child. One who uses sex life not for sensual pleasures, but only to beget children according to the reformatory method, is also accepted as a brahmachari. One should not waste semen on sensual pleasure, violating the principles of Vedic life. Restraint in sex is possible. However, only when the populace is trained in the above-mentioned 30 qualities. Otherwise, it is not possible. Even if one is born in a family of Dvijas or twice born, if they have not followed the reformatory process, he is called a Dvija Bandhu, not one of the twice born, but a friend of the twice born. The whole purpose of this system is to create good population. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, when women are polluted, the populace is Varna Shankara. And when the Varna Shankara population increases, the situation of the entire world becomes hellish. Therefore, all the Vedic literatures strongly warn against creating Varna Shankara population. When there is Varna Shankara population, the people cannot be properly controlled for peace and prosperity. Regardless of great legislative assemblies, parliaments, and similar bodies. So, in this verse, Narada Muni is continuing to explain about how important the 30 qualities previously mentioned in the verses are so important in cultivating human life, society, and therefore becoming a human being by cultivating these qualities, and not just being an animal, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. The human body allows us, it's like this escape body, because in that way, if we properly utilize um, our intelligence and fulfill the purpose of life, then we can get out of this game of changing bodies, this samsara. It's interesting that samskara is very closely related. It sounds like samsara rhymes with samsara, samskara. So you put the K in there, Krishna in there, and um, it removes samsara. And in this verse, it's beginning with Garbhadam samskara, and then the social and the cultural spiritual system of Varnashram that cultivates these qualities that were mentioned. Um, you have the four Varnas and the four ashrams. This chapter that we're in is called The Perfect Society for Social Classes. So it talks about the social classes, uh, which are um, Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras. And then the next chapter after this, the 12th chapter, we'll be discussing the four ashrams: Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyas. Um, and so this Varnashram system is necessary for um, elevating society to the spiritual platform. And therefore, um, all the duties they perform, everything that's being done is for a higher purpose, which is for Krishna, for cultivating good connection with Krishna as the center. And so, so one can fulfill, because being in this human body, we can actually inquire, why am I here? What's the purpose of life? And, those existential questions, Brahma Jigyasa. Um, and in that way, we can regain our original consciousness, our constitutional position. Jivara Swarupa Haya, Krishna Chavdas, that we're eternally servants of Krishna. And Rupa Goswami explains it further that Gopi Bhartu Padakamalayur Dasa Dasa Anudas. That we're the servant of the servant of the servant of the maintainer of gopis. And so samskaras help us cultivate this kind of consciousness, because one of the actual samskaras is diksha. In fact, that's what can make one be considered twice more. Um, when Bhakti Tirtha Swami was on the planet, one of the things he would do is he would incorporate samskars in our communities. So we would have a naming ceremony for our children, uh, the first grade ceremony, starting school. It would be a ceremony when the child is about to enter school, and then of course Diksha is always there. And there are other rites. There's a book. This book is called Samskaras, the Book of Samskaras, and it actually explains many more samskaras that can be performed, um, including funeral rites and haircutting ceremony, so many other things like how to um, attract a male child, you know, and that sort of thing. Excuse me. But this verse is saying that, and Prabhupada says that the samskaras begin with the Garbhadan samskara. And these are mantras before conception. And Srila Prabhupada simplified it by instructing that 50 rounds be chanted before conception for a child. And in this Samskaras book I was telling you about just now, it gives more details, like the appropriate time, the um, inappropriate times, places, frame of mind, and so on. Um, so those are there in that book if anyone would like. And Srila Prabhupada, I was listening to a class he gave on this very verse. I think it was back in 1971. And he was saying that when the Garbhadan Samskara, when it's performed, it's like a ceremony. The Brahmins are called, the friends and relatives come, and it's an actual ceremony where they actually get the permission and the blessings. The couple gets the permission and the blessings from the Brahmins to conceive a child. So it's not like a secret thing, It's like you let your community know, your Brahmins, your elders, your relatives, your friends, and it's like a celebration kind of thing. And Prabhupada explains in that class that by doing this, it will not be an ordinary jiva that is attracted into the womb. And in Bhagavad Gita 6:41, see, I'll pull it up. He quotes that verse in the class he was giving. The unsuccessful yogi, after many, many years of enjoyment on the planet of the pious living entities, is born into a family of righteous people or into a family of rich aristocracy. And then he explains in the purport that the unsuccessful yogis are divided into two classes. One is fallen after very little progress, and one is fallen after long practice of yoga. The yogi who falls after a short period of practice goes to the higher planets, where pious living entities are allowed to enter. And after a prolonged life there, one is sent back again to this planet to take birth in the family of a righteous Brahmin Vaishnava or aristocratic merchants. And then he explains the real purpose of yoga practice is to achieve the highest perfection of Krishna consciousness. He says, but those who do not persevere to such an extent and who fail because of material allurements are allowed by the grace of the Lord to make full utilization of their material propensities And after that, they're given opportunities to live prosperous lives in righteous or aristocratic families. Those who are born in such families may take advantage of the facilities and try to elevate themselves to full Krishna consciousness. In the next verse, he says, Krishna says that, or if unsuccessful after long practice of yoga, he takes his birth in a family of transcendentalists who are surely great in wisdom. Certainly such a birth is rare in this world. And then he explains in the purport that he himself was one of those personalities that had that kind of birth, including his Guru Maharaj. He says, by the grace of the Lord, there are still families that foster transcendentalists generation after generation. It is certainly very fortunate to take birth in such families. Fortunately, both our spiritual master, Om Vishnupad Sri Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj, and our humble self had the opportunity to take birth in such families by the grace of the Lord. And both of us were trained in the devotional service of the Lord from the very beginning of our lives. Later on, we met by the order of the transcendental system. And then the next verse kind of goes the next step. On taking such a birth, he revives the divine consciousness of his previous life, and he again tries to make further progress in order to achieve complete success. And by virtue of the divine consciousness of his previous life, he automatically becomes attracted to the yogic principles, even without seeking them. Such an inquisitive transcendentalist stands always above the ritualistic principles of the scriptures. And when the yogi engages himself with sincere endeavor in making further progress, being washed of all contaminations, then ultimately achieving perfection after many, many births of practice, he attains the supreme goal. A yogi is greater than the ascetic, greater than the empiricist, and greater than the fruitive worker. Therefore, Arjuna, in all circumstances, be a yogi. And then in the very last verse, and of all yogis, the one with great faith, who always abides in me, thinks of me within himself, and renders transcendental loving service to me, he is the most intimately united with me in yoga, and is the highest of all. That is my opinion. And so it is a great duty for parents, especially devotee parents, to perform such reformatory processes as the Bhagavatam samskara and the other samskaras. These are like rites of passages, like deep impressions in the subtle body of the child to assist them in their journey. And Prabhupada explains that twice born, or Dvija, means that you have your birth parents, your father and your mother, that gave birth to you. And then you have your spiritual husband, who is father, and you have Vedic knowledge as your mother, or Veda Mata, he says in the class, Veda Mata. And thus, that is your second birth from the spiritual master in the Vedas. And so he also explains that about the Dvija Bandhu, that if one is born in a family of Dvijas but does not perform the reformatory practices, the samskaras, then he's called a Dvija Bandhu, just a friend of the Brahmins. And just on the side is Christianity also speaks of being born again, right? That concept is there, and it's usually associated with when you are baptized, by water, by being dipped in water. So Srila Prabhupada said that the whole purpose of the system is to create good population. Okay. And if not, then we'll have Varna Sankara. Says that in a purport. And when the Varna Sankara population increases, the situation of the entire world becomes hellish. So obviously, that's what we see today, right? In society. And also that's what Arjuna was concerned about in Bhagavad Gita when he and Krishna were engaging in dialogue, preparing for the battle of Kurukshetra. Arjuna was very, very concerned and morose because he was saying that if he kills his family members and all of these men, then what about the women? The mothers, there will be Varna Sankara, and the family traditions will be broken and so on. So he said, when irreligion is prominent in the family, O Krishna, the women of the family become polluted. And from the degradation of womanhood, O descendant of Vishnu, comes unwanted progeny, or Varna Sankara. And an increase of unwanted population certainly causes hellish life, both for the family and for those who destroy the family tradition. The ancestors of such corrupt families fall down because the performances for offering them food and water are entirely stopped. So, and then he says, by the evil deeds of those who destroy the family tradition and thus give rise to unwanted children, all kinds of community projects and family welfare activities are devastated. And so, in that purport of chapter 1, text 42 of Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada says, community projects for the four orders of human society combined with family welfare activities as they are set forth by the institution of Sanatana Dharma or Varnashram Dharma are designed to enable the human being to attain his ultimate salvation. Therefore, the breaking of the Sanatana Dharma tradition by irresponsible leaders of society brings about chaos in that society. And consequently, people forget the aim of life, Vishnu. Such leaders are called blind, and persons who follow such leaders are sure to be led into chaos. And so Arjuna continues to share his concerns even further. But then Krishna says, he kind of checks him. In Bhagavad Gita 2:11, he says, Ashochana Vasochastvam Pragya Vadam Chabashase Gadashun Nagatashunascha Nam Shochanti Pandita. The Supreme Personality Godhead said, while speaking learned words, you are mourning for what is not worthy of grief. Those who are wise lament neither for the living nor the dead. So it's even more important now than then for samskaras to take place. Because there's always some cultivation that's going on. Back in that time, Krishna's time, Varnashram was there, you know. So it was a natural part of the society. But in the society that we have today, it's so degraded. And cultivation is always taking place. And that means what the mind is associating with, you know, what the child actually is trained and educated in. And so when we think about the political system here now, uh, there's a there's this concept of separation of church and state. In the Varnashram system, it was all one. I mean that um, the system was spiritual with the goal of Krishna. But in today's society, it's totally different. Um, the educational system is all secular. It's not gurukulas, right? In fact, they don't want you speaking anything about spirituality or religion in the schools these days. And so now we have television and advertisements and so many things cultivating immorality and degradation. So, which is completely just focused on gratifying the senses. So it's imperative that we have these types of processes, incorporate these types of processes more, samskar, because our children are being bombarded. Like, for example, when they go to school and they're just to your regular public schools, what kind of associations are they having? What are they being taught? Um, and so on. So it's very imperative that we uh, educate and train our children and ourselves, following the samskaras. And also in the verse, it was explaining today's verse, it was saying, oh yeah, such Brahmins, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas, purified by their family traditions and by their behavior, should worship the Lord, study the Vedas, and give charity. So those three things, worshiping the Lord, that means like the 9 processes of devotional service, right? Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. I don't know if I can say them all, but Padasevanam, Dasham, Archanam, uh, Sakyam, and ultimately Atmani Vedanam, surrendering everything. Um, and studying the Vedas, that was the second one. So that means Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam class. That means Chaitanya Charitamrita, the Upanishads, um, Ramayana, Mahabharata, all the Vedic literatures, and give charity. So that means giving in charity, giving um, without the intention of getting something in return. You know, so many ways we can give in acts of charity. So I'm going to open up for questions or comments soon. And there was a purport. I couldn't find it in the Bhagavatam somewhere where Srila Prabhupada was commenting how that machines are being invented constantly for the cultivation of sense gratification. And he was saying, even as simple as cooking or cutting our hair, we use machines to do these things, Uh, and now we have AI to do our thinking for us, right? Oh my gosh. So once again, as devotee parents, there's so many influences on the child. What kind of association are they having? So we have to give them these uh, deep impressions, these samskars, and training them and educating them daily, constantly, actually. And then the last thing is that in the verse, the words ija for worshiping, um, ajayana, studying of the Vedas, and danani, charity, vihitani, prescribed. So these are like the prescriptions for curing our disease of samsara, our disease of uh, material contamination. In that way, by just like the doctor prescribes medicine, these are the types of medicine that we can take to cultivate these 30 qualities. Um, and also to well, we understand that the best medicine in this age is the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. That is the Yuga Dharma, and that is the ultimate medication that is prescribed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself. So I'm going to stop there. Read the verse again. You can ask your questions or give me comments. Those who have been reformed by the Garbhadana ceremony and other prescribed reformatory methods, performed with Vedic mantras and without interruption, and who have been approved by Lord Brahma, are Dvijas, or twice born. Such Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas, purified by their family traditions and by their behavior, should worship the Lord, study the Vedas, and give charity. In this system, they should follow the principles of the four ashramas: brahmacharya, grahastha, vanaprastha, and sannyas. So any comments or questions, anyone else?
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
There's a serious echo in here. I want to thank you for an unusually excellent class. Your discussion was very, very parampara. It was precisely Srila Prabhupada's presentation. You covered all of the important points very nicely. There's not, I can't think of anything to add. It was really good. I really appreciate what you have done. The quality of your class was really quite good, and I can see that you also have practical realization of so much of what you've discussed. I think actually we all can take many lessons from you on this subject matter. You and your family are a great success story. Not all of us have achieved such a level of success, so you evidently know what you're doing. Anyway, I want to thank you. I'm sure there are going to be lots of other comments, so I'm going to bow out. Thank you again, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. The real success story is that we've taken initiation from bona fide spiritual masters, and that we are engaging in trying to follow and live those instructions from the spiritual master and the sastras, from our our fathers and our mothers who are trying to be twice born, trying to be Dvitas. Thank you, Babu. Hare Krishna. Any other comments, questions? Yeah, just every time. Well, one thing I was thinking about was how we have so many young couples in our community. Um, some with young children, some will be having young children, and so this verse and purport are very significant for us, um, and for all of our devotional communities, um, because it's quite an actual um, great responsibility to raise children, and it's wonderful to understand the uh, the challenges that one will face in that effort, and the more that we can assist each other in understanding and dealing with those challenges, really it's just actually following the process, following instructions of Guru and engaging in the process. Um, that is actually the best teacher for our children, because then we just teach naturally by what we do, and we share that. Any comments or questions anyone has? If not,
Jai Hare Krishna, Bhagavatam. Prabhu?
Hare Krishna.
There is an echo. I hear it. Can you speak to well, first I want to thank you for your lovely class. It's always so comprehensive and intentional and realized. And can you speak to the role of samskaras as it relates to community building?
I think that's a good question and a good point, because um, community is so important. And our Guru Maharaj emphasized the importance of loving relationships and supporting each other, um, and family, you know. And so the more we can develop that, uh, like for example, Bhakti Maharaj, um, he would find many different ways for the community to come together and support each other, um, not just in spiritual activities, but also social activities, you know. Um, in that way, he was trying to create that loving environment where we um, support each other, connect with each other, love each other, help each other, learn from each other, you know, um, which is very significant, that all the needs be met in that way for the children and for the adults. And so we would have gatherings, different gatherings. And he would also even use the secular holidays, like Thanksgiving, you know, we would get together on those days, and he would make it a spiritual event, you know. Um, and so, and also when there were transitions, like when someone left the body, or or a child or a baby left the body, that was a time to stop everything, and all of us come together and support each other through that difficult time. You know, I remember the time we had some rites and a program for a child that had left, and we actually had a ceremony in the temple room, and then we had a kirtan, and and that we went down to the Yamuna, the river down here, and the ashes of that child. It was a whole ceremony. The father went out into the water. The ashes were poured into the water, and the devotees are chanting Hare Krishna. You know, supporting each other through that difficult time. And actually, that was significant because my Guru Maharaj, he actually canceled an event. It was actually a leadership conference that he was going to go to, and he canceled going to that to be with the community at that difficult time when a child was lost. So those are some of the things that he did to try to help. And of course, these are things that we can do with each other as well, you know, and we do. When Bali Maharaj left, you know, we all came together. But we actually could do more of the other samskaras that Bhaktivedanta Maharaj did, because it's very powerful. I mean, the community, the Brahmins in the community, everyone giving their blessings to the children, you know, it's such a powerful impression that gets into that is implanted in a child, and that's what samskar is, you know. Um, so that's a little bit on that topic. Thank you for asking that question. And it's 8 o'clock now, so I'll end right here. Thank you for attending the class. You're welcome to stay for Darshana Shishi Radha. Grantra Srimad Bhagavatam Gita. Panchakalpatu Vishaka Krisanade Chatina Bhavni I am Vishnu Jarvas, Separation from Others. To AC, Dr. the Bhagavad Gita, people for I am Vishnu how much need sorry, asked for my response to the Bhakti Siddhanta social, the Guru's heart, to the Prabhupada. Anantika Vaishnava in the key that Namakari Shila Hardasa for me. It's a ghost, Krishna take on the Prabhu, which and on the shirt with the Kadara, without people the Bucks again. You see Radha Krishna go picking up. Namakun Radha Devi over Dharmati. Three Dharmati. That's a Radha. Dharmati. 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 Both the deities. Eki Nagari Dam Shri Radha Damadar Matalini Krishmati Chaktabedi Shri Go Jagannath Baladev Shimati Subhadra Maharani It go all